Scholar's mate. Literally every chess player, as they are learning the game, is defeated by, learns, and then uses the scholar's mate, which in my view is almost sad, since many, especially those without a stronger teacher or opponent, begin to believe themselves very strong chess players, since they find they can beat almost everyone easily by using it. This is, however, only true when playing people with far less chess knowledge. The scholar's mate is an absolute beginner's mate, and when attempted against an opponent well educated in chess theory, will not only fail every single time, but will almost always result in a lost game just for trying to use it. I teach every single student I have how to do a scholar's mate, since they will see it very often, and then I tell them that they really should not attempt it, and show them how to punish those who do try to use it against them. First I'm going to teach you the scholar's mate, and then I'm going to teach you how to defeat it every time, as well as how to use the fact that your opponent tried it against you against them. So first, let's see it in action from White's perspective when it does work. White plays pawn to e4. Now Black has many options and does not have to play into it, but for the sake of this lesson, we will. Black plays e5. White plays queen to h5, threatening Black's e-pawn with a check. Bringing the queen out early is actually a very bad thing to do. Black counters this with knight to c6, protecting the e-pawn. White continues with bishop to c4, now having two pieces aiming at Black's weakest point at the beginning of the game, his pawn on f7. Black, not seeing the serious threat, plays knight to f6 to attack White's queen, and White captures the f7 pawn with his queen. Checkmate. This is the four-move scholar's mate, and is one of the most popular and well-known mates in chess. And it is a very bad mate to try against a strong player. Why? Let's look at the same sequence from Black's perspective, with Black refuting the mate correctly. First, as before, White plays e4. Again, as previously stated, Black does not have to play into it, but even if you do, it can be stopped. Black plays e5. White plays queen to h5. Now theoretically, as stated before, the queen should never be brought out early in the game, since it tends to get chased around and potentially captured. The major pieces really belong at home early in the game. Moving on though, since White's queen is now threatening Black's e5 pawn, Black plays knight to c6, and White brings his bishop to c4, setting up the trap on f7. At this point, as previously seen, an incorrect move will result in a checkmate. We're not going to make that move though. Let's look at our possibilities. There are actually four ways to stop this threat at this time. Three of them anti-positional, meaning they are not good relative to the element of space, and one of them begins the development of the King's Indian defense. First, the three anti-positional moves. Black could move knight to h6. This stops the mate cold. If White takes the f7 pawn with either piece, he will at the very least drop the exchange. But Black's knight has given up space by moving away from the center of the board. Not the best choice. Black could also move the queen to e7. This does the same and stops the mate, but the bishop is now unable to move. The queen could also go to f6, but now the knight cannot develop to its natural square. Both of these moves work, but they are anti-positional as well. Which leaves the fourth and best move, that being to move the pawn to g6, blocking the queen's path to f7, attacking the queen as well, and actually beginning the development for the King's Indian defense. The normal steps for King's Indian defense is pawn to g6, bishop fianchettos, knight to f6, and castle, a strong defensive posture. Now with his queen under attack and his initial plan thwarted, White will obviously pull back his queen. Now if he was smart, he'd pull all the way back and abandon his goal of quickly checkmating and settle for a loss of tempo. If, however, he presses on with his attack, he will usually pull his queen back to f3, blocking his own knight's natural development and re-establishing the mate threat on f7. so black can now make another of the 4 moves required for the king's Indian defense and play knight to f6, blocking white's access to the f7 yet again. Now, depending on how determined the white player is to make his fast attacks work, he may try to properly begin his overall development and accept the fact that he thus far has developed poorly and already given black better development and initiative, or he may stubbornly press on with his attack. If this is his choice, white will almost always shift his queen yet again, this time to b3, making a battery and attacking the f7 square once more and digging himself even deeper into trouble. At this point, black can actually not make any effort to stop the f7 attack, because if white does take on f7, white will actually end up dropping the exchange. Instead, black should begin to counterattack by playing knight to d4. Note that now the harassing of white's queen will begin in earnest. White can seemingly actually finally get the strike in that he's so long waited for, just without a checkmate. So the bishop takes f7, winning a pawn with check, a very temporary advantage. Black calmly moves his king forward to e7. Now white has another problem, a few actually. His queen is under attack. He has to watch the potential rook and king fork on c2 by black's knight, which would lose him a rook. Plus he has the problem that if he leaves the diagonal that his bishop is on, black's king will take his bishop, and he will not only lose his 1-point advantage, he'll actually end up 2 points down instead. But, oh look, queen to c4 solves all of these problems. That is, until black makes the surprising move, pawn to b5. Now white's queen has to leave the diagonal and give up his bishop. This pawn move threatens his queen yet again and is protected by the knight. At this point, white's queen out early has become a major detriment. White's queen checks black on b4 now, which leads to black's king just taking white's bishop, and another attack on white's queen is yet again created by the discovery by black's bishop on f8. White still needs to defend, though, against a fork on c2, so he invariably pulls back to c3, which leads to yet another surprise when black plays bishop to b4. White's queen has to move once again, and cannot take the bishop due to the royal fork that will occur on c2. White's position is totally ruined, and black will easily overrun him, and in all likelihood take white's queen shortly as well. As stated at the beginning of this lesson, the Scholar's Mate is fine against other beginners, but beyond that should never be played, and now if someone tries it on you, you have a basic idea how to turn it against your opponent.